Please see the episode description for content warnings and our advice disclaimer.
The stars. Their exploration is ceaseless. Those who leap into the unknown may find anything lying in wait. Like the vessels in their navy, the crew of the starship Erebus are constantly in motion. At times, shipshape and spaceworthy. At times, calling out in distress. Most often, simply needing a little maintenance. These intrepid explorers find themselves in need of someone to talk to. This is Clinical Space.
Personal journal entry, Aja Graves, 2/14/207. Today was Demasol, the one day per week that I try, when possible, to keep my schedule free of appointments. Captain's orders. My morning tea ritual was, unfortunately, interrupted by an all-hands high alert, when an enormous space octopus mistook the Erebus for a potential mate. This situation was resolved in about 40 minutes, but I was a little shaken, and so were a few of the crew members. When the high alert was cleared, I spent some time making rounds to each department to check in, and I also visited several specific members of the crew that I thought might have been especially affected. Ensign Noltok, for example, had a very adverse experience involving space megafauna some years ago. As I understand it, they get to be a little on edge whenever the ship has an encounter like this. Which, apparently, is often enough for that to be a sentence that can even be said. I suppose that's life aboard an exploratory vessel. Ensign Noltok was fine, but I let them know they could ping me at any time today if they needed to talk. Likewise for everyone else I spoke to. Later, I made my way to the botany deck and found my usual spot. There's a little water feature between a couple of trees and a viewport that looks out the side of the ship. The starboard side? The right-hand side, whichever that is. The botany deck was empty, and I found myself grateful that I've already found my own little place aboard the Erebus where I can get some quiet solitude. I took a minute to think of other things I'm grateful for. The purple nutrient bars from the food dispenser, the ones with the gentle floral taste. Most people don't care for the taste, but I like them. So while the red and orange ones run out fast, there's almost always purple bars when I stop at the machine. I'm grateful for Chef, because I certainly couldn't carry on eating nothing but nutrient bars, even the purple ones. I would die inside. Chef is incredible. It will take a while to get used to some of the Earth cuisine, but I love the variety of flavors, and conversations with him are always so captivating. I'm grateful for Captain Lucero. She's fair and thoughtful and has been nothing but accommodating. I let her know the other day about my feelings of stress and isolation, and she said she'd look into it immediately. As a matter of fact, having one day per week with no scheduled appointments was entirely her idea. I meditated a little bit longer. Then, when I was about to put on my headset to look at my unread messages while listening to an audio info about the climate war, I love learning about late 21st Earth history. I noticed I wasn't alone. Spaceman Lang had come in at some point, evidently also to find a quiet spot, but in this case, a quiet spot for a call. She started talking as I quickly gathered to Corporal Gillis, one of the drop marines stationed on the ship, about plans they've made for tomorrow. I'm not yet privy to much crew gossip beyond what people choose to tell me while sitting in my office, but even I'm aware that those two have grown rather close recently. Before long, I found myself in the awkward position of having sat unnoticed for too much time, and even though I was getting half the conversation, I could tell it was shifting into a call that needed a bit more privacy. I still didn't really want to make my presence known, though, so I slowly set my headset to noise canceling and listened to that info audio while reading through my messages. Several work-related things, which I added to my to-do list. The episode was about the extinction of bovine cattle. A message from Jane with pictures from her trip to New Canada, to which I drafted a response. The planet is just starting its 3-year warm cycle, and it looks incredible. Fun fact, there were once over 800 unique breeds of cattle. 2 messages from my mother, which I deleted without reading. For many years, cattle beef was the 3rd most produced type of meat, behind pigs and chickens. A message from Kai about Mom, which I skimmed and marked as unread, still undecided on whether to respond. People in many places on Earth also used to drink cow's milk, often, daily, some of them. That sounds fairly gross, honestly. An update about Algakara, who's been in the hospital since the attack on the Academy. His condition is improving. The extinction was a complex issue, without any one specific thing to blame, but apparently the rapid climate change itself was one factor, and also activists destroying cattle ranches because of an overstatement of how much they contributed to the total greenhouse effect was another large factor. A sad irony, they called it. An invitation to a xenopsychology conference on Oshar, the 2nd week of Armstrong. We're planned to be like 11 sectors away at the time, so I enrolled as tentative virtual only. I'll at least be sure to get recordings of presentations I think sound interesting. Some religions venerated cows, and still do, even after their extinction. There's a movement petitioning to have them cloned from DNA samples specifically for this reason, and the ecological impact of that project is being considered by the Ag Protectorate of Earth. A message from Dr. Kalok, with some recommendations I'll need to discuss with Captain Lucero, and so on. My time responding to messages was not as efficient as if I'd been listening to music or something, but it didn't really need to be. Not today. Session notes. Dr. Graves, Counseling Officer, Starship Erebus. Client, Engineering Chief Patrick Murphy. Topic, mandated meeting after diplomatic incident. Dated 4th of Gagarin, Martian year 207. Chief Murphy's file. By his own request, it turns out, Chief Murphy's personnel file does not include the details of the event that connects him to the Galactic Legion Ascendant. I asked him about it during our session, since it was obviously relevant to the incident. I will include a little since these records are black-boxed, but I will still omit some of the particulars. Chief Murphy had several family members living on Hammurabi Station, and at the time of the station's destruction, he was serving aboard the Starship Beagle, which was the first vessel to respond to the distress call. I cannot imagine seeing what the Legion did to those people, going to investigate. Who wouldn't struggle after that? In my opinion, Chief Murphy has been regulating his emotions a good deal better than one could possibly expect from him, and I told him as much during our meeting. The chief also informed me that since the Hammurabi, he has declined all psychological resources except what has been mandated by his commanding officers. I have questions regarding those previous sessions. How did they gain his trust? Did they at all? What kind of support system did he have on the Beagle? We talked about the incident in question, the outburst at the Concordance delegates, which seemed to hold a similar place in his mind to the Galactic Legion, likely due to the mental networking techniques that the two groups have in common. He told me how he felt at the time and what his thought process was, and I said it showed all the signs of a panic attack, but that this was a very complex issue. I suggested that, for now at least, he might benefit from some anxiety reduction exercises, and gave him some additional resources to review before our next session. Chief Murphy seemed reluctant, but I made sure he understood that I have the authority to mark him unfit for duty if he does not seem to be working to address the issue. I'll not repeat the language he used in response to that. Our follow-up appointment is next Jovasol. Between now and then, I'll be consulting with Captain Lucero and with Lieutenant Kelvin from engineering to try to develop some strategies. He'll have a support system, whether he wants one or not. Submit report. New appointment, pairing fitness evaluation of Lester Nash and Lieutenant Elex. Date and time, 13th of Gagarin, 1600 hours. Invitees Mr. Nash, Lieutenant Elex, Dr. Stenley, and myself. Include medical advisory, invasive procedure, removal of cranial nested symbiont crew member. Send. Set a reminder for noon tomorrow. Read up on guttural neurology, as well as expected psychiatric baselines for consenting hosts. Also, review logs of Mr. Nash's evaluations with Dr. Flowers. Submit. Personal journal entry, Aja Graves, 6/14/207. I spoke again with Captain Lucero about everything. It was good. Something that's happened a few times since I've been here. Sometimes when neither of us has anything urgent, I'll stop by the captain's office with a question or a problem, and it's a short and simple thing, but we'll end up talking for quite some time, well over an hour. Not about the ship or the crew, not necessarily, just about life. It's always quite nice. I get the impression that it's a much-needed unwind for both of us. Not quite exactly friendship, though, and that's the crux of my issue right now. She's my commanding officer, and I'm her mental health care provider, and all our interactions fit within that frame. She told me that Dr. Flowers had similar issues when first transferred to the Erebus, which was very validating to hear. I guess the crew really is too big for one counselor to manage comfortably, although it's unfortunately not big enough to justify assigning a second one. And again, I think I could manage this size of crew if the problems weren't all so weird. The strategies that Dr. Kalok recommended were A, to get myself a pet, and I think I very much will just as soon as we have shore leave, and B, to work out a way to exempt a couple of crew members from my caseload. They'll install some sort of mental health program on the ship's computer, specifically for those few people, and I'll be able to spend extra leisure time with them without fear of developing any conflicts of interest. Manufacturing friendships is an unusual approach, but strange circumstances call for such. The restrictions are that they must be officers, but not in my direct line of command, and people that I've not seen for an appointment yet, and that have no urgent flags on their file. This actually narrowed the selection quite a bit. Dr. Stenley, the chief medical officer, Lieutenant Baz, the ship's pilot, and 3 of the drop marine sergeants. Without much discussion, Captain Lucero took all 5 off my caseload before I even left the office. She is a good captain. Today I felt valued. Tomorrow I guess I'm going for drinks with my government-mandated BFFs.
Magpie's Diary, Gag 707. Today I met the new Dr. Flowers. I mean, we met already, but met, you know? Anyway, seems chill, a bit shy. Corporal Arlo thrashed me on the court this